What was your biggest month? I know the number, but I want you to see, I want to see if you know the number, man.
Yeah, so the biggest submit month was 65,000, right?
65,000. All right. And then how much money did you invest to get 65? Because that's what people don't tell you. You'll see on the headlines like this agent made $70,000, but you don't see how much was actually invested in it. We're going to get into the mechanics of this because the goal of insurance mastery system and the rule of five is to take a real sober look at this. Welcome everyone. This is Frank Brenes with the Insurance Mastery System and the Rule of Five. And today we have an amazing guest. I've known this guest for all my life. It's my brother and elite producer, Mr. Stephen Brenes. Man, welcome to Insurance Mastery System, where we focus on people that are actually doing the business, not people talking about it, right? Stephen, you got a lot of show hosts out there that have never actually been there, done that. They've spent maybe a year doing this. And, we've been here 5 years, going on 6 total. So we've seen people come and we've seen people go. And I just wanted to commend you, Mr. Stephen Brenes, elite producer. Go ahead and introduce yourself, brother.
Awesome. Thank you, Frank. It's great knowing each other for as long as we have.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, so I got licensed in 2018, and my brother took me to a meeting. We went to a meeting, and next thing you know, I was getting signed up. And I was a little reluctant, but, I had my brother's back, and we just went all in. I was still working full-time in the studios. And my brother was in transition, and we just had to get our license. I think a month later, my brother got his license, and we had a lot of momentum. This was in 2018.
December 2018. And right before that, did you ever think, honestly, Stefan, let's start here, man. Let's start with this. What is your highest month in lead-based life insurance? Lead-based. I'm not talking about friends, family, fools, or some warm market stuff, but like that you actually invested in leads and what was your biggest month? I know the number, but I want to see if you know the number, man.
Yeah. So the biggest submit month was 65,000.
65,000. All right. And then how much money did you invest to get 65? Because that's what people don't tell you. You'll see on the headlines like this agent made $70,000, but you don't see how much was actually invested in it. We're going to get into the mechanics of this because the goal of insurance mastery system and the rule of five is to take a real sober look at this. And Stefan, I think you're the best coach out there. And like you just said, let's 70,000, 66, 68,000 you did in 1 month. And I think it was 2 months ago. So we're in August 6th now. So was it in June or was it in May? June of 2023, and you did 68,000. And so about how much money did it take for you to invest in the right leads? And we'll talk about that in order for you to achieve that.
Let me do the math here, the calculator. So it was about 42 A leads.
So 42 A leads. For all you that don't know what that is, A leads are fresh leads that are direct mail mortgage protection leads. And so Stefan is at a higher contract. He's earned it. We don't just give out contracts here. And so he'll give you the price right now of what he paid for all these
based
leads.
Off of my contract. So should we do it off if you're coming in?
Just base it off your contract. I mean, don't say your contract, but let's talk about what a lead costs.
Yeah, it was less than $3,400.
So $3,400 generated him
1,366.
Okay, so let's do the math on that. What's the ROI on that? 19 times your investment, Stefan. So let's walk through that because I want people to understand, and I want you guys also be realistic about this, right? Obviously, Stefan's been in the business now since 2017, but really started doing the lead-based life insurance business about 2 years ago, like really committing himself, quitting his job and doing that about 2 years ago. And Stefan, I mean, that is amazing. Imagine if I was to tell you that you would take $3,500 and you were invested in this, in this stock, and you were to make 66,000. Would you do that?
Absolutely.
All right. And that's what you did do. So let's start there, man. Let's talk about what kind of motivated you or what got you to the point where you're like, yeah, Well, I'm going all in, and you consistently write 30,000 a month. I see it. So, and you're an elite producer too. You're an elite producer. For all you that don't know what elite producer is, define that people that buy leads, okay, and that produce in net place volume. That means it's been issued, it's been paid of $30,000. Stefan's done that several times over in his career here, and so 66,000. So can you share a little bit about now your background? Because I just wanted to edify you for a minute, man. Not everybody does this, that can do what you do and then do it at a high peak performance way that you're doing is simply incredible. So, talk to us about where you came from, you're a little bit about your background and then what got you to just do this. Like, who does that, right?
Yeah, I was working in the motion picture industry. I had my own craft service business, and I was on a pretty awesome show. I had a great run, 9 seasons, and probably one of the best shows in Hollywood. They called it I can't think of it right now, Modern Vacation. So if you can just think of the first word, right? I was doing great, good money, getting paid for 4 weeks, working 3 weeks. But it wasn't all that great until I hit that show, but making really good money, got to travel. But I just knew there was more out there, right? So I wanted to maximize my time. I felt like God put me on this earth to do more, right? I was like, okay, if I continue on this path, I'll make good money while I'm working. But am I going to really leave a legacy? Am I going to really, create something where I could leave a legacy? And that's why I decided to join Frank. We do business together. We've had a lot of business together. We failed. And I'm like, you know what? Let's build a legacy. Let's put our last name on the map. Let's do this for our family. We're immigrants. And, my dad came with $50 in his pocket, right? So am I going to settle? Am I going to be average? And it was that one day it just hit me. I'm like, I'm meant for more. I know there's more out there. So, and for me, this vehicle was it, right? Knowing you could really impact people, really help them, and you can create a legacy. You can create passive income, and you do it by doing good. The more good.
I called you, and when I first called you, brother, it was really different because it was the MLM type of environment that we came from. And at first you were kind of disappointed. I remember, I think what we saw was an opportunity to really get our foot in the door in the business part of it. And I think all along we knew we weren't going to be there for a long time, right? I mean, was that the premise? I mean, you kind of felt that like it's got to
Yeah,
be more than this, right?
I think so. I think just, we're blessed to be able to get our license, with our first company. We knew it was the right race. It just wasn't the right horse. We knew I had faith eventually we'd get there. So it just knowing that we can impact people that way, right? And really build a legacy, have something that you can go pass this on. That to me, that meant more than a consistent income, right? Even though it was a great income, I was still trading my time for dollars, right?
And so talk about that then. A little bit about how we kind of got out of that the friends and family model to where we're at today, which is lead based, very lead based, very, go out and get it, walk us through that, man. Cause I know I was with you when I reached out to the company we're currently with, and we talked to a gentleman by the name of Sean Kim. And I mean, just from your perspective, I know I was leading in terms of finding Sean Kim, talking to him, and then we were literally on a plane from Los Angeles to Las Vegas to meet this gentleman named Sean Kim. And so kind of just walk us through that, man. Because I know, it's crazy, right?
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Right.
It's one of those things I was pitching Frank after we saw Sean Kim. So I had the first half of the day and I saw him do 4 appointments, and he was literally writing applications. Like it was so easy. He made it look so easy, right, Frank? And then my brother had the second half of the day and he wrote some more applications. And then we're like, wait a second, aren't you going to schedule another appointment to do medical exam, to do the blood work, or another appointment to analyze more of the financial situation? He's like, no, that's it. I'm like, okay, so what happens from here? So the next day, It's like, that's it. They got approved, and tomorrow I'll be getting a deposit. I looked at Frank. I'm like, right. We're like,
Yeah, and then there was something that you said, because Stefan, one thing with Stefan is he's got this BS meter about him. He knows, like, okay, it can't be that easy. Like we've worked. I mean, we're not young for any stretch of the imagination. I mean, I believe I was 45 when I came to find the lead-based life insurance market, and I had been introduced to it obviously prior, but when we saw what Sean Kim did, and we'll have him on an interview too here at Insurance Mastery. We'll have him here because he is one of the best at closing and simplifying things. But when you saw that take place, because I remember you had the first half of the meetings he had scheduled up, and then when you saw that, man, like, just walk us through the BS meter. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I'm like, I looked at Frank, and we went out to dinner after. We're in the hotel room, like, I just want to make sure this is like everything it is. Because we came from a company where it was just a lot of anticipation, a lot of like, hey, you're going to crush it. Hey, expect to not make any money for 5 years. And that's okay. And my brother crushed it. Everything we do, we crushed, right? He won the sword. I mean, we literally could fill up an entire room full of trophies, right, Frank?
I think you had like a 6-foot trophy or something they presented to you, but talk about your bank account really quick. I mean, what was that
Yeah,
like?
I mean, I was all hyped up, but all plastic, but no dough. And so I just didn't want to go down that path. And I wanted to make sure that, my brother, my business partner, that he's able to keep the house, right? Because he just moved into a house. I think Julian, when my nephew was like, what, 1 years old, 2 years old? How old was Julian?
He's 8 years old. It was 2015. So it was literally, we bought the house in 2016. And so he was like 2 or 3 years old. Yeah.
Yeah, just a little taller. And I just saw my brother's face is so defeated. I mean, you've got all these accolades, it's got the sword, it's got his name on it, and you're crushing it. But man, the bills aren't being paid. I could see it. The stress was so much. And I just didn't want him to go through that. And I didn't want to go through that. So I was brave enough to ask Sean. I go, hey, Sean, this is all great. I just need to, trust but verify, right? So I'm like, I'll tell you what, let me see your phone. Let me see your bank deposits. I go, you told me you got paid today, right? And sure enough, he looked at me like I was crazy. But I'm like, yeah, I got to see that. All right. So not his bank account, but just his deposits, right? Because money talks and you know what walks, right? So sure enough, he pulls it up, and it's like company, Foresters, Mutual Omaha, America, right? Boom, 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 boom. All the business he wrote, and it was like $7,000. I'm like, wow, incredible. For me, that's it. I knew I made a decision, and I said, hey, Frank, if I'm 50% as good as Sean, if we're 50% as good as Sean, we'll do $3,500. If we're 25% as good, what's the math on that? What is that? 1250, right? If I'm 10% as good, I'll make $700. I can do that. I know at least 10% as good as Sean.
And this was pre-pandemic time. I mean, we're talking about you'd go into homes, you'd schedule the appointment, you sit kneecap to kneecap, and you're showing them the product. But what I think, Stefan, was amazing was that people were actually filling these forms out. There was this need, this very, very specific need, and everybody has that. Wouldn't you agree that most people that own a home want to protect that, right? They want to make sure they pass that biggest investment or asset over to their family. So it was such a no-brainer, right? When we're in there. And the way Sean did it was like, it's got to be more complicated than this. And that's, I think, what provoked those questions. And I remember you turning to me, like you said, and saying, Frank, like, dude, like, if we suck at this, we could still make 6 figures. We could still do pretty damn good here. And it was almost like we were so excited to just take the damn wheel and drive, man. Right? Do you remember that? That was December, somewhere mid-December of 2018, man. It was like we're heading into the holidays. We had quit the prior company. And then it was literally, we got home and talk about how we started getting to work, because you still were full-time at your craft service business that you had going, and so it was just really just me, myself, trying to make this full-time transition into this, and of course needing your help, brother, because we don't do anything without each other, and I really depended on your leadership and your sober mindset with doing this thing. And we get back, right? And I think, Stefan, you start writing business right away. I think you started writing, NLG, and you started writing some Mutual of Omaha. And just like that, at the end of the month, I think our team, we brought in 4 people, and our team had put up about $34,000. Incidentally, I mean, that was more money than I had made in 11 months that I was with that practice company. I think you did like 8,000 or something crazy part-time. And so fast forward, man, to you were doing this business, your full-time, I think, business or job that you had. And then what was it that you're like, dude, I'm going all in, man? And you went all in. And before you went all in, you became an agency owner. So like, talk about that transition, talk about why and how much money, like what was the deciding factor for you to go, I'm done with this. I'm going all in. And I'm telling you, Stefan is in the 1% of every single agent, because most people won't do this business, Stefan. Most people don't have that. We're going to talk about that a little bit. So what was that deciding factor, man, that you're like, dude, I'm just going to turn this on?
Well, I saw the writing on the wall. When you don't learn how to make money while you're sleeping, you always work for money. And as more we develop in the business, you learn, you read books, you learn to associate, right? And that just expands your mind. And I just saw the writing on the wall. The show was going to end. We had a great run. I'm like, okay, I had a trailer making me money. It was making me, thousands of dollars a month that I can guarantee and count on. But I'll move on to the next show. Who knows what that's going to be like? I'm probably going to work nights or getting home at 6, 7 in the morning on a Saturday. Do I want to do this? I want to be a certain age. I want to continue this path. Or do I want to go out there and just go for greatness and just really go for it and go all in? So I had made a decision at that point when I saw Sean Kim, his bank account, and I saw what's possible. I made a decision, and that decision came with no compromise.
No what? I'm sorry?
No compromise.
No
right?
compromise. You guys heard that. No compromise. But you still had a job. I mean, you couldn't it wasn't a job. I mean, you were W-2, but you had responsibilities, and you had bills to pay. And when you talk about no compromise, like, talk to those people that are part-time, kind of dabbling in this business, dabbling in it. Like, what was it? Like, what did you do differently? What were your routines like, man? Like, because people want to know this, and we don't want to take the approach of other people that are interviewing. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so BS. Like, talk to me about that. Talk to those agents right now that are listening to the podcast or the video cast, and that they're kind of dabbling with part-time. Like, how do I make extra money? Like, what was it, man? Could you walk us through like what it took?
Absolutely. Yeah. So at best, that made me have 48 hours, right? Saturday and Sunday. And I was blessed to be on a great show, but sometimes I would get home a little late. But Saturdays and Sundays were my days to work. They weren't rest days, because those are the days I had. And if I squeeze into maybe one day during the week, if we got out early, then I would focus on that. But I'd book schedules for the weekends. And I was like, if I can make up some income, I know I can do the business.
Right.
Just being consistent. So whatever that is, make sure you dedicate yourself and stick to a schedule. Because if you don't have a schedule, you're not going to succeed. So stick to a schedule and make it, set a goal, $1,000, whatever that is for you, and prove that week in, week out. And then you just scale that, right? Scale that, but small goals, prove it, scale it, and then build up to that point. But it's all about being consistent, checking with your mentor, just being very intentional. If you're able to do that consistently enough, you're going to get results.
And we did. We had goals to hit, man. We knew that we wanted to get the agency ownership. We wanted you to become an agency owner. We wanted you to fire your boss, pretty much, man. I recall that. I think you did that in how long since you got to the company we're with?
Well, I was able to do that in 6 months, working part-time, not spare time.
Not spare time. Yeah, listen, that's very important, Stephan. Not spare time. When I'm telling you guys, Mr. Brenes, Stephen Brenes, was all in. And I'm telling you, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, there was no partying, there was no cheering. It was work. And that's what you guys don't want to hear, right? People don't want to hear you got to work. And he worked relentlessly. And in 6 months, he became an agency owner. When I first started, there was like 40 agency owners tops. And now there's like 100 of them, 120 or whatever. But he became an agency owner part-time in 6 months. And you were very intentional in doing so. Now, did you lead the pack, Stefan? Because you know you need to have a bunch of writers to become an agency, and the way the company considers you an agency owner is you have to be able to train, teach, coach people to do what you do, to buy leads, right? To close business, for business to stick on the books for 3 months in a row, and you have to have a net placed of 30,000 every month within your organization. So talk to us about how part-time, how you did that, how you willed that to happen.
Well, this, again, it starts with a decision, right? And then being very intentional and no matter what, non-negotiable, right? So I committed, even though I had very little hours, you'll be surprised. The least time you have, the more productive you are.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I tell you, the more time you have, then you take time for granted. But if you have a very little time, you're very, very efficient, very effective within that time. So I just scaled that, right? And again, just being very intentional.
And you were buying leads, Stefan. I mean, you were buying leads. This is a part-time guy. You had bankroll. I think Sean would say you're going to make 10x on everything you put into it. Remember, he'd say that was his number back then. You'll make about 8 to 10x, and
Right.
you willfully did it. Willfully just said, all right, and you start buying leads. And I remember the first sale we did, right? You went out to, it was Orange County. It was the Filipino lady, right?
Was that you always remember your first client, right? I still know her name till this day, right? I helped her and her sister, and her mom was dying of cancer. Her mom had terminal cancer, was literally at the bed in the living room for her. I'll never forget that, right? So what we do matters. But just to answer your question, you got to lead from the front, guys. I mean, it's leading from the front. So if you want to lead a team, you got to be the one in front. You got to be setting that example, right? So guys, they're only going to do half of what you do, or maybe 25%. So you got to be that person that is creating that wave. And if you're able to do that, then people will follow.
Yeah. And I think you said something very, very insightful. You said, don't expect your team to do what you do. Expect at best half, right? Because that is true.
Generous.
That's generous. That is generous. So what he's saying is that if you want the explosion, you have to be the explosion. And that's what Stefan was my guy, man. We first started. I'd crush it. He was crushing it. We were putting up numbers, and it helps that you have an anchor, right? Stefan is my anchor in this business. Stefan's fortunate enough to have recruited some top warm market people, but that were with us, and now they've become agency owners. So let's talk about your mindset, Stefan, because that, I believe, plays a big part in your achievements, what you've done. Your agency does 7 figures every year now. You've promoted out 2 agency owners, and you're an elite producer. So talk to us about how that mindset, we look at when we first started with Sean, when we were out in Vegas, and then look at the Stefan today. Like that mindset, I would venture to say, is 100% different than it was when we were first starting, right? So talk about that in terms of your mindset, brother.
Oh, awesome. That's we can talk hours. I know we have a few minutes here, but it starts with you being an example. It really does. You have to be the example. So if you want your team to do something, you got to do it. If you want to build a massive team, you got to be the builder, right? It's tough to build a team when you're not building.
Right.
So
it's tough to produce when you're not producing.
Self-ownership, own it. Right. We act like owners because we own it. So you got to own the good, the bad, the ugly.
Yeah.
Own your shortcomings, own it, embrace it. I know that it's going to be a struggle, but you need to have sight, meaning that I'm already visualizing at top contract. This is just the path we got to take. Embrace that, embrace the struggles, because that's what gets you tough. That's what's going to get you there, right?
But you've done something differently, Stefan, than anything I've seen from you before. We've grown up together. I know that you're an avid reader now. You send me all the time which podcast to listen to. I mean, I think for the most part, I think you've grown also in terms of your mindset, because you've cut out the Netflix, you've cut out all that crap, and all you do now is, I mean, this is all you do. You walk, you breathe, and you speak self-improvement. And I think that, I mean, you and I mean, you're in the East Coast right now. I'm in the West Coast. And I mean, I'm texting you at 5 a.m. and you're out working out. in the morning, and you're sending me, Boudros. Well, who else do you send me?
Well, in all fairness, that's 8 a.m. over here, but I'm actually up before then.
You're up before that, yeah. And I meant 5 your time because I wake
No,
up and there's like a
wait a
whole list
second.
of motivational things that I have to go over with Stefan. And so like when I'm waking up, he's already out, showered and coffee.
No,
But
it's more like if you're texting me at 10:11, I'm still replying.
yeah,
So
exactly.
we're 3 hours ahead. So 10 a.m., 10 p.m. It's 1 a.m. East Coast, but I'm also that's just a trait of ours, right? When you're driven, not motivated, keyword driven, right? Because
Driven.
motivation comes and goes, motivation's temporary, but being driven, the emotions, there's not even it's not even you just cut that out,
Yeah, it's
right?
like you have a duty. It's a duty to do it versus, you do it because you got to get up for it. It's different, right? It's a discipline that you've done throughout the years, man. It's
Yeah.
a discipline that you've done. And then how do you deal with like setbacks, bro? Because we've had a couple of those, you've had a bunch of setbacks. How do you deal with that in terms of from that mental perspective?
They say that for every adversity, there's an equal and opposite seed of opportunity.
Wow.
And know that that's what's going to make you better. It's the decisions you make when things are going tough. Those are the decisions that make you, right. Those are decisions that forge you, right. And those are the times that can make you either weaker or stronger. It's up to you to know that you're going through a learning opportunity and capitalize. Every adversity is getting you better. It's happening for you, not to you. And the famous Ed Milet, he's very known for saying that. And we're familiar with Ed Milet. We've met Ed Milet, and it's one of his lines, right? But it's everything that's happening is happening for you.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And
just a mind shift,
and like our mentor Kyle Cambrell says, and he says it so well. He says, adversity could either define you or discourage you. And I think with every adversity that we've faced, we've had that tenacity to just push through it. And I see it in your numbers. I see it in you growing your team. So for high performers, the last question we have, because we got to run, man, and it's been amazing because I know your growth. Any books, any resources, your Instagram, your YouTube, I don't know YouTube, but your Instagram channel or something that they can reach out to you, people, or your phone number, man, your email,
Yeah.
any of that stuff that you could just kind of like tell the audience there, man, because we're going to be marketing the crap out of this. We're going to get it to the right people. But like, what are the resources that you would recommend, man?
Yeah. So, well, my Instagram is IG at real Stephen B. I like the old school guys. I like the Napoleon Hill, right? Zig Ziglars. I love those guys because those guys are just tested in time, right? Interviewing the greats. I read all Napoleon Hill's books.
And movies too, right? You always say don't throw wood.
Yeah.
What movie is that? The Boiler Room?
Yeah, we got Boiler Room, Wolf of Wall Street,
Wolf of
right?
Wall Street, Boiler Room.
Staying sharp,
Yeah.
Jim is incredible.
Glenn Ross. That's so good.
Cool guys, you just got to watch those and just got to keep sharpening your axe, right? And that's it. Just never.
And I'd like to say this, Stephan, if you're interested to hear more about Stephan, what he does differently than anyone I know is he actually spends time coaching people that are committed. If they're not committed, he doesn't coach them. People come up and they ask, what are the keys to this? What's the secret sauce? There is none. Stephan will coach you. It's almost like a batting swing or a golf swing, right? You get the mechanics done right, have you buy the right leads, and the leads that we have are pretty damn good. And then it's just a matter of him closing a couple with you, and then you're off to the races, Stephan. You've had some success lately with that. And just that's your management style. It's hands-on. If you want to work with Stephan, again, follow him at Real Stephan B on Instagram, Real Stephan B. And he's got a lot of great content going out there. So follow him there. And Stephan, how do we reach out to you, man? If I want to work with the Stephen Brenes, elite producer, regional agency director, how do we reach out to you, man?
Yeah, just reach out to me, DM me at Real Stephan B, and I'll respond.
That's easy. Real Stephan B. All right, guys, drop a share, drop a like, drop a comment. Make sure you subscribe to our videos. We're going to be going hard on this. I'm gonna be interviewing, and Stefan, you're gonna join us on these, man. I'd love to have you. But some really big, successful people in the business that have done the business, not that sell you leads, not that sell you fame. I mean, people that are actually out there doing this freaking business and doing it well. And that's my commitment to you, Insurance Mastery System and the Rule of Five. Catch us again, Stefan. We're out, man. Thank you so much for this, brother. We got an amazing conference to go to right around the corner, and we'll be back, guys. Thank you.